Oh,
Hey, everybody, and welcome. You are here with Rollin with the Golden Oldies. And in honor of that, today we are talking about firsts, our first times with many, many things. And we're throwing it open to the crowd. Call in or log in, comment, tell us your firsts, and ask us about ours. And Michelle Altamirano, throwing it to you.
hi guys. Thanks for joining us today. I know we can all, think back to the very beginning and they're trying to get you in a chair and trying to get you to do therapy and all that stuff. And products are foreign to you. It's like, well, we need to get a new chair for you. And I'm like, well, I have no idea what I need, whatever. So they did it for me. Very interesting. All right, Ellen, how are you today?
Oh, okay. So my first, my after the injury, after the chair, I was actually incredibly lucky because I was able to be in the hospital for 6 months, right? So that was
Yeah.
back in the
Oh,
days when they actually insured us. So a lot of
The
my
good old
firsts were with,
days.
yeah, back in the days. Hi, everybody. Let's say hello, Mickey. We're hoping you join us soon and that you are healing well. Velma, Leah, Nicole, and Hell Wills, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. Just want to give a shout out to the comments there. I had an
Mickey had
amazing, like, oh,
Mickey had
go
her
ahead.
first flap surgery. Speaking of
Oh,
first, so she's healing up from that. So, whatever, 3, 4 weeks. Hopefully, she'll be back with us.
yes, that would be
Yeah,
great. That would be great.
great.
I had that when I was in the hospital. My first, like, mine was when I was in the, like 6 months in the hospital. You go through a lot of stuff. So, but the first
Yeah.
chair that they got me, right, new injury. They're like, oh, but you're young. We're going to get you this sports chair with no brakes and no. Yeah,
Oh,
no, it looks really good, but I was so not ready for a sports lightweight chair
no
with no
way.
brakes. Yeah. It was fun and cute and everything, but it didn't give me the support or the resources to really learn to transfer independently. And I think it
They
was a little
suggested that for
much.
your very first chair, Ellen?
My
No.
very first chair, my OT was dating somebody that made chairs, and so they recommended that chair.
Of
And
course.
yeah, and it had no brakes. She's like, no, but you just transfer like this. I'm like, I'm a quad.
Oh, right.
I certainly could not transfer without the brakes. And yeah, it looked really cool. And I really loved it because, it was yellow and cool. But I think
Yeah.
you have to sort of work up to, having chairs that don't have all the, right. I love my wheel locks. My wheel locks
Yeah.
hold my chair and keep me from falling on the floor when I have a craptastic transfer. So
Yeah.
that was my first chair was not a good fit. That was not a positive first, but it
Mine was
did
the
teach
total
me.
opposite.
All right, what did you get?
It was the heavy duty, safest, had all the bells and whistles that I didn't even know what they did. It had those little, I don't know what you call them, to keep your wheels from rolling back. I can't
Oh yeah, the
remember.
locks, the wheel locks.
Yeah, those little things. Yeah. I mean, it had all kinds of things that were like, okay, of course it weighed a ton, but I wasn't schlepping my chair, in a car or anything. So it worked at that time and it had the
Yeah.
solid tires and all of
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And it was not flippy and, it was just
When you say
very
you weren't
sturdy and very
schlepping
safe.
your chair, did you have a van from the get-go so you didn't have to do
No,
chair transfer?
no,
So how
not
did you
until,
get
well,
around with
no,
this heavy chair?
I would, well, either whoever was driving me would throw it in the trunk. So, it did fold as well, but yeah, they
So it
had to
was their
deal with it.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
What about your
So
chair? What was
then,
your
Got
first?
it. I actually, from Northridge, they knew what they were doing. Shout out to Gary. No, shout out to Roger back in those days.
mhm.
I got a quick too, but as Leon was saying, you don't know from nothing with your
Yeah.
Yeah.
first wheelchair, your first catheters. I went, what?
No.
I'm going to need catheters at home?
Mhm.
I thought just, after I get out of the hospital, it'll magically start to work again.
You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a quickie too, which was a good chair, and it
Yep.
was appropriate for me. and it had the anti-tippers, but when I went into outpatient, the first thing I asked them to do was teach me how to do wheelies so I could get rid of the anti-tippers. And I remember Roger standing behind me, while I was balancing, just in case I fell over backwards. But that was a huge step for me, was learning how to do wheelies so I could get rid of those dang anti-tippers.
Yeah.
Leon says his first power chair was his best chair. I had quickies for a long time. The quickies were great. I really liked them. The lightweight chairs with the new locks, the wheel. I hated the razor brakes. Anybody still have the razor brakes where you have to go underneath and do them? No, I hated those. But the first push brakes, right? Like they stuck in too far, and your thumb would hit them. Have you ever done where you hit them?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, mother
Yeah.
does.
It goes right up to your brain. Yeah.
Hey, does everybody know the story of how Quickie started, and they started lightweight wheelchairs?
Marilyn,
Since you
right?
can't tell me,
Marilyn.
I'll tell it. Marilyn Hamilton was paralyzed in a not skydiving, hang gliding. There you go, hang gliding accident. And she and her friends, were given the E&J special, and she went, oh, but no.
Yeah.
And so they used hang gliding parts to make a lightweight wheelchair for her. And that's how Quickie was born. And then Sunrise Medical bought them, I don't know, 2, 5 years, 10 years down the line. And so Sunrise and Quickie, now we think of them as the same thing. But that's thanks to Marilyn Hamilton, we have lightweight wheelchairs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because 36 years ago, it was just E&J. That's what they gave all the vets. That's what they gave everybody leaving the hospital. Those things were made of heavy duty metal. They were indestructible. And they also weighed a ton.
Like 60, 80 pounds?
So when Quickie came out, it was still pretty new when you and I were over there, Ellen, trying to find our first chairs. But way back when, the vendors used to allow them to borrow different types of chairs. So you got to try different chairs while you were still in rehab. And that's not the case anymore. I don't know what chairs they have now or what they have access to, but you didn't get a chance to see what the difference was between chairs. So
no,
and now I guess
it's bad because the vendors want to come in. The vendors would come in and let us try chairs over and over again. But hospitals have contracts with certain vendors, and then once you get a contract, seems like the customer service just falls off.
Yeah.
But I think 42 years ago, because I got my chair 42 years ago. So 42 years ago, I think that my OT picked that chair because it was like heavy E&J, or this one new person that she knew making them out of Las Vegas or somewhere. And she's like, we're not putting you in a heavy E&J, but okay, that one new one, I wasn't ready. Like there were no in-betweens at that time. So thank God Marilyn, built the other ones, and then John Box got in there and did colors, and now there's competition and everybody's got, so you have choice now. That's the amazing thing. It's really personal. Your chair, who was saying, Leon was saying that it feels like it's, couldn't see himself in a chair, and then the chair is like a part of you. It is an extension of who you are, the style, the design, the color, the wheels. Like, are you using, frog legs? Are you using Spinergies? What are you putting on it? It really is an extension of the individual now. But back in the day, right, you had maybe 1-2 choices, and that was it. And either learn to live with it until you could figure out that there was something else out there. It was sort of like an arranged marriage. Here you go. Yeah. This is your new partner for life. And you're like, oh, hell no. And now we have
Was it 5 years back then like it is now? So you could get a new one every 5 years?
Still 5 years. Unless they can figure out, I think I got one, but my mom knew how to work, the chair. She's like, she's flipping over. She can't use this chair.
Whatever, exactly.
Yeah.
Because usually, your first chair isn't your best chair because you're going to get stronger. Your stamina is going to get better. Your hands will get better and all of that. So that serves its purpose for the first few years, till you're trying to figure it out. So when you get your second chair, then you kind of know, hey, I like this. I like,
you can have
don't
an
like
opinion
that.
by
Exactly.
then. Hey, so
Colors galore.
Leon says his first power chair
Mhm.
was the very best one he's ever had.
Oh,
So
good.
you lucked out, Leon.
Yeah.
Just
But now
luck of the draw.
Yeah.
it is good.
But I think
It's nice to get it.
maybe, yeah, a part of it is, I don't know, like there's other products that are out there that the first versions came out and they were great and people loved them. And then when they go and put out the new and improved one, it's not so great anymore. So I
Did you
don't
say the
know.
first virgins
It's
came out?
no
Virgin, not virgins. Get your mind out of the gotta go. You're hilarious.
Well, it's about first times. What do you want from me?
So
It is the
yeah.
first time.
So once
Yes.
the companies see that
I thought
people like
Michelle
it
was
and they're
being
going
naughty.
for it.
I think we talked about the first time. That first time before.
All right. Oh no,
Back
that's
to
way back there.
Mine was my first time was after my accident, so I didn't, have a lot to compare it to. So
Oh, wow.
well, good.
yeah, I was 8.
No.
Hey, baby, 18 and still a virgin. My mom was so happy.
Oh, what a good girl you were. And then you posed in Playboy.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
There
I
you
don't
go.
think I was a
What
good
did Mom
girl.
think
I
about
just think
that?
the idea of sex scared the crap out of me. It's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
just no, thank you. That's just gross and ugly, and I just no, thank you.
Well, that's
I
a
was
biggie
just
too.
yeah.
In rehab way
Sure.
back then, I remember
Yeah.
they brought in the very nervous resident who was turning red in the face and told me, well, you will be able to have children. Didn't look at me at all, didn't say anything else regarding, sex or pregnancy or that you should be on birth control if you don't want to have a child. And
Yes.
because yes, we can get pregnant just as easily. And it was just that very awkward, and I'm just like, really, this is it. And I think
You
the
remember?
doctors still don't go as in depth, as far as, hey, this is normal, this is that. So way back when Bobby the famous Bobby Rowan, and I
Oh my
would
gosh.
go to different hospitals and we'd talk about sexuality and all of that. And Bobby was very, very young, and so I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know if he was a first time male or not or whatever. But at
No,
I, that
he
point,
had a fiance. He had a fiance when he was injured, and
okay,
I don't think they were waiting until they were getting married.
going back, yeah.
Back then.
I
So
didn't know him
Bobby,
that
we
well
talked about
then.
this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Bobby had a fiance when he
Yeah.
was. Now we're talking about Bobby's first time. Bobby had a fiance when he was injured, and or I don't know if they were fiancéed yet, but they got fiancéed. They got engaged and stuff. Because the first time I met Bobby's
Like my
parents,
daughter?
and his mom just passed, God rest her soul.
Yeah.
Bobby and I were doing sports camp at CSUN. So I would say that was my first time really hanging out with other people with disabilities. Like
Mhm.
really finding my people was the sports camp at CSUN where we were counselors.
Yeah.
That was where my first becoming comfortable. And we would go out after the camp the day, because we were counselors. Bobby and I were co-directors and counselors, and we'd all go to happy hour afterwards, and we'd go sing karaoke at some restaurant. And we had stayed too long, and Bobby hadn't been answering his phone, and his fiance came in and threw her engagement ring at him and yelled at him in front of everybody.
Ooh.
And then his mom and his dad came in, and we're all like, "We're so sorry, Bobby. We're so sorry." It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was.
Hey, how do we go from wheelchairs to sex to Bobby?
First time.
Poor guy.
First times.
I don't know.
So
I don't know
that
if
was
you
my
guys
first
got-
time.
couples. And I
When
do
was
this
your
feel
first
with
time
the
of
ladies.
finding your
film?
people?
Did you guys get
Finding
the
your
film at
people.
Northridge, the sex film?
No.
See, nobody talked
No.
to me about sex.
Yeah.
We just you get your little schedule. We were all filed into this little tiny room and shown a film of disabled people having like heavy petting and stuff to show that it didn't have to be penetration. But they chose the
Okay.
clumsiest and ugliest people ever for this sex film. And I swear it
It's
has to
like
be
the
on
nude
purpose. They
beach.
don't
Who do
want
you
us
see on the
reproducing.
nude beach? People here
Probably.
don't
They
want
were
to see
just
the nude beach.
so unattractive.
No videos or anything like that. Yeah.
Right.
So,
And
I mean, the women were happy to hear. So,
yeah. I mean, Leon was saying that, his doctors back then, they sometimes, I mean, I don't even remember. I mean, I'm sure I was at a new rehab hospital. So my staff was all really young, my PT, my OT. And so I'm sure they talked to me about it. I don't remember the film and stuff. I was incredibly lucky that two of the orderlies that had to be in their 20s when I was injured realized that I was an 18-year-old, 19-year-old young woman because I was 18 and then I was still in the hospital when I turned 19. And they were like my introduction back into the world. They would flirt with me and tease me, and they were never crossed a line, but they were just really treated me like I was still a 19-year-old young woman.
you're a girl,
Women,
absolutely.
but just didn't let the chair see me, weren't phased by the chair. So I was really lucky in that I had those early experiences. I mean, my first happy hour was with them and my OT. So my OT took me to see films. My first film was the dancing movie where the water comes down and she's a ballet.
Flashdance.
What is Flashdance? Really? Why am I watching Flashdance while I just broke my neck? Let's be a little, not a good. So my first movie was that. And then first was like El Torito. We went and had margaritas, and the orderlies went with me. My OT went with me. And that was my first time I had the spasms so bad that they hit the table and knock all the stuff off the table. And that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So again, so lucky that so many of those little firsts were when I was with people who are educated, knew who, so it sort of eased it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and after they started cutting back on the time.
That's
after
right.
Ellen, they started cutting back on the time because they went, well, if we keep them here long enough, they're just going to go wild and all have sex with each other. So it's your fault. We're not in the hospital as long as you.
I didn't have sex with anybody else, but it was amazing to be there 6 months, right? To have those experiences, to talk to people about them, to
Absolutely.
So what was your first? What was the first time you ladies found your people? Like you really found them? Like Michelle, you went out with Bobby and talked about sex. I mean, did you find them right away? It took me a while because of my own internalized ableism. Like, I found
this was
my college
years
people,
later,
but not my disabled peoples.
And probably because when I did my rehab, I was the only person with a spinal cord injury and the only person under 50 at that rehab. So I feel, all the therapists were all really young and all of that. So I think I got special treatment because I connected with them. And luckily they had a lot of experience and showed me and took me out and all of that. But as far as first group exposure was when I went to Northridge outpatient therapy and started the support group. And there's a room full of people in wheelchairs and I'm just amazed, it's like, oh, wow. And sitting there quietly for the first few weeks, probably, I just observed and listened, and I learned what I did not want to become and what I was going to strive for in those meetings, because some of those people were pretty far out, especially for someone who's newly injured. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I would zone out, checking out Sandra Rudnick's outfits because she always coordinated to the T from, accessories to shoes and purses and really neat little outfits. So I was only 22, so fashion was big. So that was, the first time really being close and talking to other people. And but the one thing, going back to rehab, we also had outings. I was at Cedars. We pushed to the Beverly Center, to, California Pizza Kitchen and the other Hard Rock and everything. I wore my halo for 4 months. So I was out there wheeling on the streets to the Beverly Center with this giant halo. It's bad enough you get the stairs. Now you have this big old metal frame over your head. And that draws interest from a lot of people. So I think that made it a lot more challenging because it was so much more noticeable. If you're sitting at a table, people can't really tell, but they see that giant frame over your head and they're like, Hell. So yeah, so
Mm.
that was very interesting. All right. What
Well, I
about
agree
you,
with you.
Julienne?
I agree. My first when we went to outings from Northridge, the first outing was going to the little movie theaters in Northridge that are now long gone. There was like a
Oh,
set of 2 screens there. Don't remember the movie. What I remember was the plush red seats and the kids who had just gotten out of them. And then
mm.
2 days later, back in the hospital, I realized I've got head lice from the
Oh,
Oh,
theater seat.
oh God! Thank God I don't have to sit in them.
Thank God that theater isn't there anymore. But now I
On
can't
top
go to
of
the
yeah.
movies and
everything
leave my
else,
head
right?
back.
Oh my God.
But at that same theater, I was sitting out in the lobby by myself for some reason, just sitting there, and this guy came up to me and he said, "You're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in a wheelchair."
Yeah,
Oh, that's like, saying you're
yeah,
so pretty for an old lady, you know?
Yeah,
I,
exactly.
yeah, that is not a compliment. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
I have
was
some
like,
friends that
just say
oh,
I'm the most beautiful woman you've ever seen. I don't need in the wheelchair now.
I
right.
think what
Yeah,
I said to him was, "You could have stopped a little earlier," but,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. But
So I have
like
two guy
Michelle,
friends,
I
wheelchair
mhm.
users. Sorry. And
No,
one
go
of them
ahead.
had a girlfriend at that time, and they went out to dinner, whatever it was, they're out there. And they walk out all together, and somebody kind of stops them and tells the girlfriend, "It's so nice that they let them out." Like, yeah, I think we know who that is. It's like,
Yep.
are you kidding me? Like, they were, had been in an
Yeah,
asylum or something, and they got to go out for dinner or for the weekend, whatever. It's like, oh my God. It's just, uh,
It
stupid
is.
things people
yeah.
say are endless.
We have to save up our passes if we want a whole day out.
Right.
Well, I was gonna say finding my people, same way Michelle did. Thank God for Sandra Rudnick.
Mhm.
That support group at Northridge on the 3rd floor back in the day,
Yeah.
it was on our schedule, so we had to go. And then I went back every Thursday at 3 for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Um, just because that's where you find your people.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
now we're fortunate enough to have those meetings on Zoom since I'm out in Camarillo.
Hmm.
But Jeanette still runs those meetings every
Yeah.
Thursday
Hmm.
at 3, Northridge
Yes, she does.
Hospital. Yeah, it's so valuable. Leon
Yeah.
was saying his first outing was on his birthday, 3 months after his accident, and he was scared to death of riding in a vehicle again. So Leon, you
Yeah.
must have got hurt in a car accident, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is scary
Boom,
that
you
Yeah.
first
let the
time back
quads
in the
out.
Okay.
car, right?
Okay. So what's your experience first time driving with hand controls?
Oh, first time driving with hand controls. Casa Colina. I did out the whole driving program out there. And it was, I mean, I'm a horrible passenger. And like Leon, with other people driving, freaks me out. Like my mom and I would be like every time.
Yeah.
Like I literally had to close my eyes. If I'm driving, I trust my driving. But Casa Colina, so I went out there, learned to drive with the hand controls. And then the first time driving on my own, my parents had gotten me a little Mustang, not the convertible, but a little Mustang. And you practice the transferring, right? You practice transferring in. Back then, I had a collapsible
Hmm.
chair, so I transfer in, take the seat cushion off, fold up the chair. It had to be bucket seats back then, so you could pull it in behind the bucket seat.
Mm.
And trying to do that, it took me 30 minutes. And I remember because the bucket seat has that little stupid latch that you have to unlatch to pull the seat forward, right? But if you lean back
No.
too far, it latches again. So I had that happening like 6 times. And then I pulled it in, finally got the big wheels in behind the seat so that I could,
Yeah.
and I pull it into the car and the stupid seatbelt is wrapped around the wheel. So I have to start all over. And the
Oh
thing that I
God.
remember, yeah, I was it was hot. You're just anxious because I'm going to drive off on my own for the first time in my own car. And my dad was standing there, and I just remember cursing him out. Like, what kind of father just stands there and lets their daughter do this? What a jerk you. I'm like looking at the floor thinking, you are the worst human being in the world. You don't care about me. Blah, blah, blah. And then I look up and he's crying. His hands are in his pockets. He is sobbing. And I realize it is the hardest thing he's ever probably done, is not helping me. And it did take me 30 minutes that day, but eventually I got it down to 30 seconds, like boom, boom, boom. And I think if he'd reached in, I think if he'd helped me, I would have doubted, because I was so nervous and anxious and doubted my own ability to do this. I think that would have reinforced my doubt instead of the faith in doing it. So that was my first car outing. I didn't realize that until later. I hated him the whole time. I sped off and was like,
hey, it says Bobby is joining us for a quick story about Ellen.
Oh, okay. All right.
How you feeling, Ellen?
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, good.
Oh, Bobby is going to go ahead, Bobby. What's your story about me? I told yours about the first time.
I think this is revenge, Ellen.
Right. Here we go.
There are so many stories Bobby could have.
We'll wait for, So back to first time driving. I learned to drive at Northridge. Way back then, it was that big old ugly yellow Impala with the chair topper kind of thing. So you did have to, take off the cushion, fold it, crank it up and all of that. But once I got behind the wheel, it was like, oh my God, freedom. I loved driving the car. It was really awesome. Hey, Bobby, welcome.
Hey, now we lost Ellen. Dang it.
Do you have a first time story?
What's that? Oh, my ears were. Yeah, my ears were burning. Because Michelle kind of told the story almost right. So Ellen and I, and then a couple other friends in chairs, our good friend Jeff Mitchell, and we were coming out of a market and all happy. She was, we had a bunch of friends with us, and the three of us were like kind of wheeling right out onto the sidewalk. And this gal probably, and I don't want to say anything bad about San Diego State, but probably went to San Diego State. And she comes running over and she goes, "This is so great. They let you guys out and do things." And you should have saw Ellen. Her ex-husband jumps over the top of her to restrain, because Ellen is like, "Oh, what are you saying?" And we were just cracking up because Ellen just wanted a piece of her. And she's walking off like, friends, look, they get to get out too.
That was back when if we were in San Diego, that was over the line. We were down there for the over the line.
No, we were down in Mexico.
Oh, Mexico.
Yeah, we were at the Baja Del Mar house, and we were downtown, just came out of a market or something. So.
Come on in, free parking.
There you go.
Yeah, I know.
When we go to Mexico, anytime on the cruises, we make bets about how many times we're going to hear, come in, free parking, before when you're going into shop. Oh, it's at least 30 times. And you're like, no, not free parking, free tequila. You want me to come into the shop? Say, come on in, free tequila.
Free sample. There you go. Okay. All right.
Bobby and I were both single.
What's
for
that?
a long time together. I said we were both single for a while together.
Yeah, we
Back
were.
in the day.
We out and we did a lot. We crazy stories of parties after we used to we were co-directors of a wheelchair sports camp for kids at Cal State Northridge. And so Monday nights we used to go out after the day of camp. And we were at Acapulco's one night, and a bunch of us like, karaoke is going on. We get up there and we request a song, and it is crowded in there for like 4 or 5 o'clock. And we start all singing "Walk Like a Man." Nobody got into it. Nobody, like everybody's like, do we laugh? Like, we're all having fun. It was happy margarita time, and we're just having fun. And it was just like, okay. they didn't know how to take it back then.
They didn't. No, they still. I mean, I still think people are a little, they just don't know that we can laugh. Like, we can be like, we can make fun of our own situations like anybody, right?
Have fun like anybody else.
Not so serious or tragic.
Yeah.
It's just life, man.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
life.
Yeah.
It's just a piece of tool that we use for our daily life. But
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we can't laugh at ourselves, it's like, it's just, we need to sometimes.
All the best jokes anyway.
And even if the situation is horrible, sometimes you start crying and then you end up laughing because it's just so ridiculous. And
when was the first time you fell in public? First time you fell in public. When is that? And how did you respond? So what was your first time falling? Or if you haven't,
I had 3 martinis. I had 3 martinis and flipped over backwards in my manual chair.
Oh,
and hit my head on the marble floor of this restaurant, and I couldn't stop laughing. I just thought it was great. And I think if you're really drunk and loose, you don't get hurt because my head was fine and I was fine. And
you don't tense up when you're falling, right?
You don't tense up after 3 martinis. It's not possible, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Not after 3 martinis. What about you, Michelle?
Welcome to the alcohol show, folks.
The first time actually was the first evening that I was released from the hospital. And my friend and my sister are there with me and everything. And here I am on the carpet trying to show off. Look, they taught me how to do a wheelie.
Oh.
Well, on the carpet and I don't know, whatever. I went straight back. Luckily, it was carpet. I start laughing, and my sister and my friend are horrified because and it took them a minute to I couldn't even talk to them because I was laughing so hard. So yeah, that wasn't out in public, but it was like, it really shocked them and thought, oh my God, but I was fine.
Oh, yeah. People's reactions. Oh my God, are you okay?
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm fine. I'm laughing. It's not my first rodeo. I've fallen out of my chair. My first was I was on an outing and I was at I was with my family at Nordstrom's and I bent over too far. So I went forward out.
Oh,
you know how you go? And but it was at a clothing rack. So I fell into the center of the clothing rack and my chair, of course, because I didn't have the brakes on, rolled away.
Oh, great.
So there's an empty wheelchair. And I'm like, try to get people's attention, but I just want to hide in the clothing rack. Just let me sit here and somebody will come find my wheelchair. My family will eventually come over and find me. I was just mortified at that one. But then there's been in France, we were there for New Year's Eve and I was really drunk. Yes. Lots of wine in France. And I was saying, Bon anniversaire, la petite princesse. And I'd fallen out of my chair and our friend that we were with he had prosthetic legs and he walked right over me while I'm in the streets of France saying Happy New Year. And he's like, I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know you. And he just walked off. It's like, no, you do know me. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. So first time
We've had tequila, we've had vodka, we've had wine. Michelle?
Oh, what I've had?
Any alcoholic calls?
No, I tend to have a shut off kind of a thing, but there's been a few times. One time we were at a hotel / casino and I had enough to drink. And I told my husband, I'll wait for you in the room. So I make my way to the room and I'm in there and I'm like, I'm tired of being in my chair. I decide to go transfer. Well, I don't know what happened. I lost my balance and I end up like this, half on the bed, half in my chair, and I knocked out. So when my husband came back, he's like, what happened? And I'm like, I had no idea what happened, but
I don't know. Yes.
So you went to sleep in that position?
Yeah.
I've done that where just basically you're like done for the night and you just lay back and then you're like, I know I need to get up.
You are the king of falls, Bobby. I swear.
Oh, yeah.
When Ellen said that, I can't remember my first fall. I know one of the worst, one of the most embarrassing. I was just starting to date a gal and we come out of a restaurant and back in my younger days when I used to be able to hop off the curbs.
Oh, hell.
We come out of the restaurant, it's dark, and I thought I was going to just pop right down, and my front end went down sooner, and I just laid it out like knees, elbows, chin scraped. And
Oh, my
like
God.
the next day I
Oh.
got on the voicemail. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work out. So, it's like, I figured that, But
Yeah.
I've had,
Anytime I saw Bobby with a mark on his forehead, I'm like, did you fall? Of course.
Yeah. Lots
I've
of
had
falls. Never. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did break my leg in a fall once. That was pretty bad in 2011. But
Yep.
I was going down the curve like a driveway. I was going down a driveway, and there's that dip, and then the lips sometimes they have like it's not smooth, and so I came down, and my daughter was on my lap, but because she was on my lap, when I hit that lip, I just went forward and landed on my leg, and but yeah, I don't think the chocolate martinis helped, right? So helped my balance. I knew I broke my leg, so I knew I broke my leg when I because I got home, I went to the bathroom, I got into bed. When I got up to go to the bathroom from my bed, and I picked up my to transfer, I picked up my leg, and my foot stayed on the ground. I'm like, oh yeah,
but I think we all have like Michelle, you've fallen in your van.
I've fallen in my van.
Yeah. And broke your femur?
Well, that time I got wedged between the seat and the console of my van. Ooh. And then I slipped. But I've fallen trying to get into my van and trying to. This was a sequence of 3 breaks on the same below the knee area.
That was like
here.
It was not fun. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. The 2 years of hell there. And then, one time trying to back into my lift, I had stuff I was carrying. It's dark. It's not. And I'm trying to, balance everything and roll back. And I don't even know what happened, but, I was down on my knees in the darn parking lot. And that was break number 2. Oof. And then the third break was transferring out of a shuttle. Those shuttles?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So my daughter was helping me go down, and I felt that she, was kind of losing grip. So I hung on to the door to kind of stop us, but my chair stopped, but I slid right out of my chair. So I'm half on the ramp, half on the thing. So yeah, not fun breaking body parts.
No.
I think we've all done that, where your chair stops and you keep going.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
There's something about that Newton law. I don't know what it is, but
a body in motion remains in motion.
Stays in motion, exactly.
Wheelchair in motion, not necessarily.
Yeah. Not good. Not good. I've gotten a lot more careful, more thoughtful about. I do have anti-tips now, mainly because I have a power assist. And if you go fast on that, I don't want to flip over and hit my head. Trying to not. The things that don't heal well. They're saying Hell Wheels was saying Bobby. Yeah, Bobby is super quad. If you just saw him at the show, if you saw his Facebook or Instagram post, you're like, oh my God. Your most recent show picture is incredible going out there. But I think it's the first times of pushing yourself and living through it, right? Or realizing that, having a success, you're like, woohoo, it's awesome. I can do
absolutely.
This. Or you're not successful, you're like, but I survived it. Like I broke something, but I survived that fall and I'm back. And I think that's the amazing thing about the first time. Like it can be horrible and awful and scary and anxiety, but once you do it, it's not the first time anymore.
Absolutely. No.
And it's funny, you learn, and I'll tell you one thing, with your story of breaking your femur, Ellen, when you're, going, crossing the road and going to the other sidewalk, or it might be a driveway. Because right now in my driveway, I bought a rubber ramp just so I can get out on the streets when I want to go pushing. Because I was getting tired of coming all the way to it now and stopping. In my young days, I used to just like back and get a wheelie and then hit it.
And there's quite a lift there. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, and I know over time that I've had where I hit that wrong, and just now I approach everyone so carefully at an angle. Like I'm like, I do not want any more broken anything, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure you go through it too, Julienne. Like, I mean, you've done a hip.
Yeah.
I've done 2 hips. Yeah. No, I
Okay.
broke my femur. No, I broke my tibia, reaching down to pet the cat. Now that is just such an embarrassing way to break a
Oh,
leg. Just slid right out and landed completely wrong. But
yeah.
I was I was mad. My mother-in-law used to live with us, and I just couldn't stand her. Sorry, Harriet, I
Okay.
couldn't stand her, and she couldn't stand me. And there we were living together. So I was in the kitchen, was gonna come to the back of the house, and she was in her room. So I went, instead of that, I'm going around. So I went around, and of course, me, Miss Gardner, I went, oh, that needs to be pruned. Went over, was pruning, oops, on a hill, on a slant, reach up,
Oh,
and that's fell out.
tip.
And I think when it's serious, at least for me, you can tell. There's a
You
certain
know,
dread.
Yeah.
There's a
absolutely.
dread level there. And it was just like,
Yeah.
Dan, call 911. This is not help me back into my wheelchair. This is a
No.
Yeah.
911.
Yeah.
Oh,
9-1.
geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
when
And
I
they
broke
said,
my yeah. I was just gonna say when I broke my fib tib and I realized it, I got up in the morning and I said, "Okay, who's going?" Because I'd had Zoe, and I was still with my ex. I was like, "Who's going to watch the baby?" So her uncle Jeff was there, and who's going to watch the baby and who's going to take me to the hospital? My
Yeah.
husband, my ex at the time said, "I'll watch the baby. You go to Jeff can take you." And Jeff said, "I'll watch the baby. You can go." So I'm like, "I'm just going to drive myself." Thank you very much.
Great.
But I had my Scion, so it was probably better because I didn't have to transfer. Right, if somebody else is driving me, I
Yeah.
have to transfer. But I was like, "Fine, I'll take myself to the
Right.
hospital.
Oh God.
I'll take
Yeah.
myself and I'll get there." And they're like, "Oh my God, we have to do a reduction. Your foot is so swollen." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I think it was the 6 chocolate martinis that made me forget that I broke. Made me realize I didn't break it till after it broke it. But knock on wood, I've only had the one fall. But Bobby, I'm like you, and just extra careful now with looking at those lips. I
Absolutely.
never thought of a ramp on my driveway. My neighbor's driveway has no lip, so I will actually go down to his house to go from my
Not
car and
there.
like. Where are you going? I'm like, his driveway is easier to get up. Like, I don't have to deal with like trying to pop up or do anything. I don't want to worry about it, especially if there's stuff on your lap. Like anything on your lap or
Exactly.
carrying, it shifts your ability to do it.
Your
I will
balance.
say, and this is just a shout out, and maybe they'll sponsor us, but the lap stacker,
Yeah.
was just going to
lifesaver.
ask if anybody had that.
Oh, greatest thing ever. It is so good. I can carry bins. You can stack up a suitcase on your lap, and it locks it on there, and it
That's
really
the
doesn't
seatbelt
come
thing,
off.
right?
Hold
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
and it just pulls up, and you can carry a lot of crap. So you can carry your phone. So if I'm wheeling, Bobby, I'm out walking the dog, and I want my phone it's right where I can see it. I just lap stack it right on there. But
Right on
I
there.
have lap stacked like a huge bin because I do transition fairs and I have to bring all my crap with me. People are like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, it's on there." It's you still have to be really careful when you're going up hills and make sure there's no lip.
Yeah.
But I don't have to worry. I'm not sidetracked by worrying that it's going to fall off and break because that's the other thing,
Exactly.
right? You're worried that it's going
That's
to
a
fall
good
off.
idea. I know, like for me, I'm sitting in a bucket, so I don't have to worry about it. But Michelle, you should really like. I've seen Michelle try to carry something. I got a videotape. Sorry,
So
Michelle.
I know. I
you,
use
you
my
turn
purse to
around
hold
and the
things.
stuff on your lap goes this way and you go this way and then you
Oh
got to
yeah,
bend down and pick it up
that's what
25 times a day. I got to
Yeah.
get this thing.
Michelle
And then
uses.
it's so good. It's
Michelle
spendy but
puts her
worth it.
purse here around her neck, her purse here, and then everything's up on top of
On
holding
it.
it.
It balances. And
It
if it's a
balances
bin,
just
I put
high.
my purse over it. So
It
going
holds. I
back
have
to
it. Yeah.
falling and all those little curb lips and all of that now with those ugly yellow freaking bumpy grades that they put at the
Oh, those are
curb,
awful.
they are rarely flush with the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not
Sometimes
supposed
there's
to. They're for people who are blind.
sometimes there's a big old gap before
Yep.
before
Oh yeah.
the lip, or they're lifted up a little bit, and that's the thing. It's like we use our momentum a lot when we're pushing.
Yes.
It's like, ooh, it helps us. But then you get there and you have to put the brakes on because you can't just easily roll
No.
up the curb because you don't know what that's like
I had a bad one on Tuesday.
until you're there.
I just thought to myself, it was gray. You know how they're all yellow mostly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one was gray, and it felt thicker than any of the ones I've.
Oh wow.
And it was like I kind of came around my van, and then I was pushing up on top of the sidewalk so I can get into my van. And I mean, I had a hell of a time because the bumps were it was like boom, boom, and I'm just
And
like,
it kind of makes you.
I am. And like
Feels
Ellen
right.
said, the competition I just did, I pulled sled and pushed a sled that was 55 pounds, and I could barely get over this dang grate, And I'm
That's
just like,
great. Yeah.
I'm like, there should be a small level. They don't need much. Trust me, they know their feeling, and they don't
Yes.
need that much of a bump.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
need to downsize those. If they downsize it, then I'm sure we can all make a happy ground.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think, and I think they need, if they'd consulted people who are blind about how much they needed and, had a team of people that could work together as opposed to
Yeah.
somebody who's never experienced either blindness or using a wheelchair deciding that,
Exactly.
we need it this big. Where it's like, no, you really don't. People who are blind, if they're using a stick, they know to move it back and forth and find it.
Absolutely. They know.
Yeah, they're not.
No, they know where they're at.
Yes.
They had no
Instinctively,
sense of,
by the sounds
yeah,
of
they
the
had
tracks,
no sense
by
of
the
where the
people
hell
of-
they are or where the
slope.
crosswalk is ending. They wouldn't be out there. I don't think.
Yes.
I mean, I could
No.
be wrong, and I don't want to speak for
I
blind
know.
people.
I think that the skills are underestimated by people that overdo it and
Absolutely.
It's like the people that make a big deal and move 4 chairs for you to sit at a table. Oh, they made a room for you. I'm like, okay, it's a chair. It's not, it's not huge. You don't have to do 4 chairs, but people overestimate all the time, or they pull their feet in so far, and you're like, there was plenty of room before. You didn't need to make that much room.
Yeah,
my chair is actually, but they do. They just over exaggerate and underestimate people's skills and ability because, again, they're looking at us like, you're out. Those people are out. Oh my God, we need to. It's like they need to be more like my dad. Put your hands in your pocket.
There you go.
Let us figure out what we need and trust that we'll ask if we don't have it. And I always say, and if we don't ask the first time and we have to struggle, trust me, the second time we'll be like, oh hell yes, open that door. Oh hell yes, help me out with that. Right? We have to, we're people. We're grown adults, or even if we're not grown adults, we know what we have to be able to figure it out. Don't figure it out for us. That's what I always
absolutely. Yeah.
Meanwhile, back at first times, I was going to say your first date after injury, but Michelle, you were already married or dating?
Engaged.
Isidro?
I was engaged.
You were engaged.
I was engaged.
So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was married and then divorced and then married and yeah. So, what about the first time you had to tell somebody that you've been injured and you're in a wheelchair? Like a friend or family member who hadn't found out and you had to be the one to tell them?
Or they see you for the first time.
By family, I'm sure by family and friends. Like before I knew it, it seemed like everybody knew it. So I didn't have, and I was young too. So you got to remember, and all 4 of us were back before cell phones. You're not in bed.
Just the baby, right?
Hey, by the way, this happened. So yeah, being young, that I think that ruled me out in that kind of question.
Well, then I will share that. I don't know who told my family because, of course, I was in the hospital. But my friends, especially past friends, didn't know. So going back to where I grew up and going to a high school reunion.
Oh, that was fun.
An interesting experience.
Yeah.
Now, you guys know me very well and know that I don't mind attention at all. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to create a stir here. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, if I'm honest, it was a little intimidating. Like, people aren't going to like me because now I'm, damaged or different and just looking at people's faces.
Yeah.
Interesting. Or when I had to call a friend and tell her what had happened, and just hearing her break down on the phone.
Yeah.
I actually do have one real quick. I lived in Salem, Oregon from first grade to fifth grade. And we lived on a cul-de-sac away from everybody else, from a lot of housing developments. And, I had my good friend or my best friend. He was at the end of the street. And then there was, we had 12 of us always hanging out, getting in trouble during the summer, living off the land because there was always fruit and everything. But we moved away and, for sixth grade, I went to Bend, Oregon, too young to really get a pen pal or a writing back and forth. And so years later, my brother and I and a girlfriend at the time went up to go see my grandma and visit family up there because they were still there. And we thought, like, let's drive by. And so we drove by, and the mom, we knocked on the door. The mom comes out. She's like, oh my God, and she's like, come in. And we're like, well, Bobby's not going to come in, but, we really like to see Jamie. And she was just shocked. So she gave us his address and said he's home. So we went over there to hang out. And to come to find out, he married the girl down the street, Darcy, who, we were all friends, but none of us, too young to, kinky around. But they were the last two on the block. And so next thing I know, they're sitting there with 2 kids or 3 kids.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm staring at him. They're staring at me. And it's just like,
oh God,
so awkward. I'm like, and they're going, what's your life? It was the oddest thing just sitting in this room going, they hooked up. And then he's like, and he can't walk. It's just,
oh my gosh,
the oddest thing. The worst hour of my life going, oh my God, this is weird.
Yeah, that high school reunion, I went to the 10th, and I mean, was only one person, my best friend from junior high, that I kept in touch with since then and stuff. And it's like, I felt very confident. I looked good. I had a really nice dress, the whole thing all made up. Enough wine just to feel, get the edge off and all of that in there. And I had a great time. And it's funny though, because girls who had never spoken a single word to me in high school, kind of in the bathroom, like very casually, oh yeah, hi. And it's like, oh, well, so what happened to you? And it's like, really, bitch, you never spoke to me before, but now you're wondering, you're concerned about what happened to me. And it's like, oh my God, I laughed because I won the certificate for most changed. I'm like, okay, what is that supposed to mean? I was the only one in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I didn't.
I've done that at mine.
I announced mine through Playboy. So by the time I went to my 10th, I had posed for Playboy. So everybody knew. Like everyone, So I had that opportunity to just go back and be semi-famous, and like, oh, and you. So it kind of made it easier going back and telling people, because I think by then most everybody had heard and seen and knew, and so that was. But then it was like the weird, because they wanted autographs and stuff, and you're like, what? You didn't You didn't even talk to me in school. You hated me.
Right? Yeah.
You were supposed to make me vice president if I didn't win the ASB, and you didn't. And now you're being nice to me. Screw you, Roger.
Because you've seen my boobs? Really?
Yeah. Seriously, you're all nice to me now. Because that is that weird
you
thing.
Still don't
Suddenly
know me.
people are nice.
I felt so bad in rehab. I had so many people come by, and half of the school came in, and I'm like, I don't know you. Who are you? I'm sitting there talking like we hung out all the time, and I'm just like, I'm lost here. I mean, thank God back in ICU and a couple months into rehab, you're pretty drugged up, so you're like, whatever you say, you're fine. So maybe I did know them, I don't know, but it was just odd. Every once in a while, somebody come in and they're just like, oh my gosh, and we hung out. I'm like, we did, like, oh my God, I cannot remember.
Maybe once at that football game we hung out, but now my life has changed because you were injured, and I just realized my own mortality. It's like dear heaven, suddenly everybody is I don't know. They want to have empathy, but yeah, there was a lot of people that didn't like
Somehow
being
it's like, I knew him, we're connected kind of a thing, when it's like, I don't know you.
Well, there's a little bit of celebrity there, isn't there?
There
You
kind
know,
of is.
you're the
It's like,
focus of
ooh.
attention. I mean,
Yeah.
not I mean, Ellen, you had real celebrity, but just
Not great,
because
but
you're
yeah.
different and everybody's talking about it, so
Yeah. There's a
people
buzz.
want,
You know,
so
I have
people
a
want to have a
question.
connection.
A question for you gals, I should say. Do you think it's easier for, the public out there, you know, having easier for them to, I guess, look at us, how we said, like, they're saying, great job on getting out, or, wow, that's so awesome you're here.
Mhm.
But with social media and more exposure that we have on
Mhm.
social media compared back in our day, we didn't have that kind of stuff. But do you think it's
Yeah.
easier? Do you think that helps the social media? Um,
Easier on
I
who?
always thought, like, and I know social media is an algorithm thing, and
Yeah.
once you scroll and hit one person at a share, you're probably
Yeah.
going to get 100 different types of people or those inspiration. And I don't know if everybody gets that.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, like, I wonder if that makes it easier.
Well, maybe for the newer younger generations that are like on it, locked on it, and that's their reality of what they see on their screens. But I think for people who are older, and especially older, and they grew up a certain way and they looked at disability in a certain way. And I think one of the best things, I mean, we were, 20 years post injury by the time we had the internet and whatever it was. And I think being out there and just doing normal things, I think for a lot of people, it's like, hey, I'm having dinner, I'm bowling, I'm doing whatever, getting my hair done, all kinds of things. So I think it kind of, depends. But I mean, just think of how many people you saw out in the streets when you were first injured. Very rarely did I ever see anybody. Now we go somewhere and my husband's like, oh, there's someone in a wheelchair over there. Do you know? Especially if we're local. But lo and behold, one time, and it was Ellen at Whole Foods.
Well, I do know
We were in
her.
line already, the checkout line. I don't know if you remember in the parking
I
lot.
do. I remember seeing you, and then I've seen
And
you
it's
there in your
just-
van getting in before too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Bobby, I think you're right about the algorithms, the people that are finding it. But I think people get trolled so, like the couple that they have books out and they like got so
Kimmy and Grimes,
yeah. I mean, they get so trolled, and the embedded ableist beliefs about disability, or I think even with some of the newer, like I teach 18 and 19-year-olds. These are people on the media all the time, and they still have such a sort of disability still freaks them out. It still seems like a negative, and we work all semester sort of destigmatizing disability and realizing that they experience disability all the time. And even people with family members, sort of, it's such a ingrained sort of belief that somehow the disability makes you less than, and so we either have to be, you're so amazing, or we feel bad for you. That it's like getting people to understand it's really everybody's body will change. I'm sorry. Everybody's body will change. You will not be able to, even if you're not in a wheelchair, to do what you did at 20 the same way you are at 60. You won't. And if you can't adapt to the changes and be more careful going over curb cuts so you don't go flying out of your chair, if you don't adjust, then you're always wanting to live those glory days, and you're never going to be happy with where you are and who you are. And I think that is a sad thing, as opposed to, I think if we see more, like Michele says, people out there just living their life, doing their things, that's the real. So those shows that show that, they're not, I think that social media allows more images to be out there. I still just think that, fortunately, there are a lot of people that are just willfully ignorant. They don't want to learn. They want to stay in that mindset.
Does it annoy you when someone says, wow, you're such an inspiration?
It depends on way they're saying it. If I'm buying peas in the grocery store, yes, I'm annoyed. Yeah, like I'm grocery shopping. I'm not an inspiration. If it's that I don't know, like what you do. If I'm doing what you do, if I'm out there, competing in events, or I mean, I don't even know if being in Playboy is an inspiration, but that I am, doing something that's outside the realm of what the typical population does, then yes, I can be an inspiration, right? But if I'm just living my life, just doing my thing, I'm annoyed at a crap, because I don't think that we don't say that to somebody who's 5'2", right? They don't fit the realm of being considered disabled because of their height. We don't go, ooh, good for you. You got somebody to get that off the shelf at the grocery store. You're an inspiration, right? But somehow when there's a visible impairment, we do. So people are just different. And so if I'm just living my life differently and I have the right tools, it doesn't, it's not that much harder. In some ways, it's easier for me to get across campus, right? I'm on wheels with a power assist. I got students mimicking me, trying to ride those damn scooters, right? I want to get across campus. So that is going, like when I,
like you have it so easy because you have wheels.
Yeah, it's not an inspiration that I'm going across campus. It's good technology. Right.
There you go.
Good technology and resources. That's what's so. I think that I appreciate that people want to change their mind, but I think that when we're not inspirations for living our lives, just living our lives, that's when attitudes will have actually changed, right? When we're just living our life.
And it sucks. I mean, it's cool, and I see where you say, the inspiration comes from, if I'm doing something cool. And the reason why people can say it is because we have that, blue handicap on us, we are the parking symbol, if you want to say it, not, but we, they see it. We don't see everybody's to stop somebody and they're carrying something and going, wow, you're amazing, because we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
What I hate is I wish I knew if they were in stage 4 cancer and still going out and doing something. I can't say, wow, people don't get that. We get it. And so I can, and I just wanted your thought. It doesn't annoy me unless it's just, like you said, maybe buying peas and that. What do you feel, Julienne? You're quiet.
I'm just thinking about the people, especially newly injured folks, who are afraid to go out or don't want to go out because they don't want people looking at them. They don't want people staring at them. And how many times in support groups have we heard people expressing this, that they don't know what the other people are thinking when they're staring at them?
Yeah.
And if the flip side of that is people thinking, wow, you're amazing, then I'll go for that. A long time ago, when I was very first injured, I went to the Hollywood Bowl, and at that point, I don't know if they still do, but they were picking us up in wheelchairs, and we had on a little wagon. So I was sitting in my wheelchair up above the crowds, right? And I started thinking, gosh, the people at the Northridge support group would be devastated by being so obvious. So I started going like this from my position. So I went back to the Northridge group and said, what you got to do is imagine that people are staring at you because you are so damn beautiful.
Amazing. There you go. Amazing.
Well, but staring to me, I say to everybody, I'm sorry, I stare a lot at people too. They don't, not necessarily in a chair, but maybe the way, like, God damn, your pants too short or tight, or your socks a little too high, or whatever reason. Looking, I stare at many people. I mean, there's only one reason to go to Disneyland, and that's not Mickey Mouse. That's to stare at people.
Oh yeah, no. Right. Maybe that they look amazing. Maybe you look amazing. Maybe they like your glasses. We don't know why they're staring. What are we filtering through?
Looks like they're ex-wife.
I'm gonna tell you my first here. In a long time, I'm going to meet somebody for drinks. This is the first time I'm in because I was married with my partner for 29 years. So probably 30 years that I have actually met anybody. I don't know, just drinks, just happy hour, just could be nothing, but that's my first. So I'm up there to meet them.
Nice.
It is nice. It's
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, we're
Yeah.
colleagues, so we'll see. I mean, it just be colleagues hanging out, whatever. It might not mean anything, but I actually haven't, like, other than my friends, gone out to
Yeah.
with somebody that I don't really know well
Yeah.
to meet for drinks, right? So
Well, that's the thing. Even if it's not a love connection, if you have a pleasant evening and you talked and had these wonderful conversations, and maybe, he's not, gonna light your fire, but you've had a positive experience with someone. After 29 years, it's like,
I know it's
has
nice to have a
dating
positive
changed?
experience.
Kind of a
It
thing,
is.
yeah. But it's like,
But
okay,
don't
then
fall out of your chair, or he'll call you the
yeah,
next
there
day
you
and
go.
go,
Yeah.
"Oh,
He'll definitely won't call
I
you
won't
back.
hear anything from them again. No.
Or
No,
he'll
I
leave
will
a
try not to fall
voicemail
out
on
of my
the
chair. I did have to say that my I had to email, like, I do have a service dog. Like, I mean, I don't know. Do you not, like, what if people don't like dogs, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh my
you
god,
Well,
could. It's
you
a good
don't know.
point. It's a
Yeah,
good
I'm like,
point.
I don't know.
yeah,
Like, I don't know how to do any of this anymore. I don't like.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
You
but
know,
it's.
I
I mean,
think
I think it's fun to know that we can still have firsts, like first in a long
absolutely.
time. Like, we can still get out there and do it. And we've been through so much, all of us, good, bad, ugly, and here we are. Like, Bobby is like, man, you're living your life. Julienne just passed the crown, and Michelle is
Yeah,
doing groups and out there supporting. Like, I
yeah,
don't know. That is what is inspiring. I am inspired by the
yes,
fact that we continue to live fully and learn
absolutely.
from what we've experienced. So those firsts are always such an opportunity for us to,
Mhm.
to know that we can do it again.
Yeah,
Mickey's
Vicky, I'll
right.
give you a report next month. I
absolutely.
will.
Ooh,
Next
I think
month, we
it's
need the report.
well,
I
next month you gals should do dating and relationships.
will.
You haven't done that in a while.
We haven't done it in a while. I think we did it for Beg. I think, well, look, yeah.
Oh, that's
And
right, you
hey,
did.
yeah, we
all to
did
all of our groups, please send in or email
suggestions.
out
Absolutely,
show ideas you'd love to hear about, because we're really here to talk to y'all, and so, like, love to hear what people want to hear so we can share it.
absolutely.
Julianne, do you want to do our sponsors? Or you guys keep
No,
talking? I gotta go because I
and
don't want to.
now
Yeah,
I gotta
is now
make sure I don't
sitting.
stink.
We want to say thank you to our sponsors, mobility professionals and urology professionals. Same company, two different things they're doing. Some of the best people you will
absolutely.
ever meet. And it's one of the things I like to do is support small business.
Hmm.
And these guys are our local friends. So if you need DME, if you need urological supplies, or you just want to talk to nice people, call mobility professionals. And
Absolutely.
sponsor us. So they've got to be good.
There you go. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks
It's been
all.
fun.
Thank you for
And
letting me
we'll
crash and be a
all right.
friend.
We'll see
Anytime.
you next month.
Next
I
time
think
you have to wear a wig,
right.
though.
You need a wig next
Yeah, I will
time,
wear my
Bobby.
wig
I
next
know. I
time.
told him.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank
Take
you all
care.
for
Bye.
joining us. Bye.
Bye.